featured goddess for this new moon, which is the Virgo new moon, which is all about healing and the feminine and oh so yummy goodness, is a woman that I dearly, dearly admire in the most fierce way. Her name is Zhena. Hi. And I really wanted to introduce Zhena to my community for so many reasons, because to be honest, it is very rare when I meet a woman that so deeply shapes my soul in such a confronting and transformational way. And for some reason, whenever I'm around this woman, I get really emotional. So Zhena and I connected about a year ago through the world of words. And at the time, if I'm being honest, I was completely ignorant and had no idea the company that I was in. So we Skyped in, I had a call, and I was hoping to get someone to publish my next book. I had no idea who I was talking to, and wow, holy moly. This woman not only agreed to work with me, she has taught me so much, has changed my life, has made me up my game, has redefined the meaning of purpose in my life and the way I approach every goddamn day. Hi Mia, every day. And she is someone, that I know is going to serve lashings of inspiration and insight for all of your souls. So Zhena is an author, accomplished entrepreneur, a public speaker, a publisher at Enliven Books, the author of Life by the Cup, a mentor, a sage, a muse, and I just, want to thank her for making the time to be here. She is a busy woman. People around the world would die, would sell their firstborn for a brief minute with this woman. So you are also lucky. Zhena, sorry, I remember. It's great.
Wow, that was quite an intro. I will try to live up to a smidgen of 1/10 of a percent of it, but thank you.
See, and humble. I mean, it's rare. Zhena is calling in from California. How's the weather?
Beautiful. It's actually decent. It's actually not 100 degrees, so I've been outside all day. Oh, and now I have my daughter's lizard. So, you forgot to mention I'm the mother of Mia, which is like my crowning glory, and the mother of Sage. So that's pretty much the biggest accomplishment here.
I love that. And who is your friend?
This is Spike, which we just found out was a girl. And we've had Spike since before we went to Bali. My brother and his wife babysat Spike. We found Spike in the yard, and Mia tamed her. Sorry, we're still getting used to Spike being a girl. And and so this is a blue belly lizard, which are very common in California. And it's been with our family for like 6 months. And when we went to Bali, my brother tried to set it free. And 2 days later, it showed up at his doorstep. And just waited to be let back in, because I don't think they have mealworms in nature the way they do when you're hand-fed from a human. So,
but anyway. I love that it had a GPS to come back home.
Oh yeah, no, we've had probably 10 or 12 that live in our yard because they don't want to leave Mia. So anyway, and lizard medicine is really good medicine for this new moon, actually. And what I always say is anything you plant on a new moon grows. I've been hosting new moon women's circles for quite a few years. And when you set your intention on the new moon and the moon starts to wax, it's a really excellent time. So I'm loving that you're doing this, Emma.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, to all the girls that are trying to piece together how me and Zhena connected. So I spent time with Zhena working on my book in Bali. And even though I've been to Bali...
Hard job. Oh my God, so hard.
Hard work, life's hard. This trip was a whole different ballgame for me. And I felt like I got knighted in a sense, or I don't know, anointed.
Well, I adopted you. Don't forget. I said I would be your spiritual goddess mommy. So don't forget, that's a big commitment, and it still holds. Not only am I your publisher, but I've adopted you. So
see, and I was kind of going to give her time to tap out of that because I didn't want her to feel obliged. But now she's involved with you guys. It's
that's awesome.
But what was amazing is the women that Zhena brought together and the circle that she created. And on one of the final nights that we all had together, we had a new moon experience. And I left, she completely, I don't want to say broke me open because it sounds violent, but she got to the underbelly of my soul. And I flew back to New Zealand thinking I never, ever want to have a new moon alone again. And so she is totally the reason why these online gatherings have happened, and she is the sole reason why that seed got planted. So thank you, Zhena.
You're super welcome. And honestly, I went to an all-women's college, I think I probably told you, where we took a vow to protect other women, and it's owned by a secret sisterhood. 350,000 women all over the world own this tiny all-women's college in the Midwest in the United States. And we take that vow very seriously. So we love women's gatherings. We love, when women gather, I tend to see like the ripple effect for many years to come. So you're creating something that will not only bond women, but will help grow them. And I love what you're doing. So good on you, goddess.
Thanks, Mama. So I want to ask you, and I don't normally ask people on New Moon, or even when I'm interviewing people, questions like this, but for you, I feel like there's no surface chat. We get straight to the soul.
Yeah, let's do it. 6 planet Sagittarius. I need to be all cards on the table right away.
Good. What is your meaning or definition behind purpose?
Well, it's really what we come in for. I have been looking at purpose for pretty much my whole life, and I discovered it the day after my 25th birthday when I had my son Sage. I discovered my purpose was to keep him alive because he needed some operations as a newborn, and that gave me a purpose that was so much bigger than myself, and it had such a high risk involved that it basically showed me that I wasn't the center of the universe anymore, and what a relief. It was also harrowing, and we were able to do it. Sage is almost 18. He's healthy and beautiful and strong, but the purpose that I was given by becoming a mother really created for me, it made me a woman I could count on, and it made me stand in integrity all the time. Well, most of the time. Sometimes I fall out of integrity, but I usually catch myself quickly now. But for me, my purpose now is to inspire, and purpose is the one word or maybe 2 words that you come in with that just completely resonates throughout your entire soul. Mine is to inspire. So right now I'm practicing inspiring health in my son because he's almost 18. He's going to be on his own soon, and I can't shove the vitamins, his way all the time. Purpose for me is when I'm in my purpose, I feel invisible, like Zhena disappears, and everything, I'm one with all. And that is the best feeling I know, to be one with God and one with you and one with everyone. So I think for me, purpose is when the personality disappears and you become your divine being, and everything else, becomes, I don't know, when you're in it, it feels like, for me, the sky is sparkly. My body is energized from a force that is so far beyond, just having a success or having a aha or that first cup of caffeine in the morning. But it's really a sense of like, oh my God, I am one with the entire of all creation. And this is like, I want more of this and less of everything else. So I can actually teach you guys some quick exercises on how to find your purpose too, if anyone wants, if anyone's into it. I taught a purpose course a couple years ago at Simon & Schuster, and it was funny because I taught it to my nanny at the time, and she was like, she quit within a month. I took her through the course. And she goes, no, it's not that I don't love you. It's just that my purpose is to teach. I need to go back to Nashville and get my teaching credentials and live at my parents so that I can afford it. And Gerard goes, can you stop inspiring people to find their purpose? The turnover is killing us. I was like, I can't help it. But if everybody has a pen and paper, or if you can type, one of the things I like to do is I like to look at 3 times that you felt that everything made sense in your entire life. They could have been a moment where you saw your baby for the first time. It could have been a moment where, and I see Worth Stokes is on the call. Worth, not fair. You've left your body and come back. So we know you've got your purpose dialed, girl. But the other thing is, for me, my purpose, the 3 places I looked at it is, one, when I was in Peru, when I was 20, studying herbal medicine. And I had a moment with the shaman that changed my life, up in the Asir, the bird canopy. Number 2 was looking into my child's eyes. And number 3 was building my first school through Zena's Gypsy Tea, my tea company, for the kids, because they didn't have school, they didn't have anything. And so when I look at those 3 things, right? Number 1, I was in Peru with the shaman and I was in awe over the rainforest. Number 2, I was looking into my son's eyes. I was awed. I was blown away seeing that little face for the first time. My God. And then number 3, looking at that school, what we had built out of tea sales, like not thinking, number 1, I didn't think I could build a multi-million-dollar business. Number 2, I didn't know that I could have such an impact with that business ever. And so when I look at those 3 things, they have one thing in common. I'm in awe and I'm inspired, right? So they seem unrelated, but when you really drill down, you can start to see trends on the momentous moments in your life, but those moments in your life where all of a sudden your breath is taken away, or you're so mesmerized or in such awe, you're struck by it. And then you can start seeing a pattern. And for me, it's to inspire is to be inspired as well. So I love being in awe, and usually that means I've been inspired, or I'm in the process of inspiring someone and they're lighting up. So that's a super, 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 super quick way to figure out what your purpose is. And people usually, I remember when I was doing my first purpose statement, it was like 4 sentences with a lot of commas in between, because I didn't want to narrow it down too much and feel like I was limiting my purpose, because it's so many things and everything's so equally important. But to inspire and be inspired seems pretty simple, but it's proven to be great. And the minute I figured out my purpose, I was called within a week to keynote a huge conference called We Inspire, Women's Entrepreneurs Inspire Conference. So We Inspire. So I was like, oh, okay, thanks God, I'm on the right track. But things start to definitely get clearer when you narrow down and find your word or your 2 words.
Yeah. And that is exactly why, she is our featured goddess, because that you've just said, Zhena, is a definition of a goddess, like someone who is divinely aligned, inspires others, creates. Like as a feminine, all of those also had creation at, all these things that you had made at the heart of it, which is our superpower, right?
It is our superpower.
You're amazing. So how do you show up in your purpose?
Well, sometimes like yesterday, I couldn't even lift my arms. I was so tired because I did a big keynote on Saturday and I taught last weekend, the Authors Academy. And so yesterday, the way I showed up on purpose, I literally laid in bed all day, asked my husband to cover the kids. But mind you, I got my daughter a new kitten on Saturday. So I felt like I had done my job for the weekend. It was okay for me to just chill. And I basically drew and laid around and looked up writing sheds, because I had to get rid of my yurt over a county permitting thing. And so I decided that I was going to get super inspired. So I literally spent the whole day doing that. And that was showing up for me. And a lot of times showing up is not what you expect. Like you might feel like you're not doing enough or you're not being productive enough. That's always my thing. Is that I'm not performing enough, I'm not producing enough and all of that. But at the end of the day, sometimes showing up to your purpose is making sure you are fed and cared for. And I know it sounds cliche, the whole self-care thing, but we really need to get in the habit of it. Like we really actually need to do it. And showing up to yoga a couple times a week, that's great. But how do you show up to your purpose when it's not the popular thing to do? How do you show up to your purpose when you have to get other people to cover your ass so that you can rest? How do you show up to your purpose when sometimes that means drinking some wine and eating a bag of chips? You just do it and you put your feet up and you play. I mean, it's really a matter of showing up in the moment to what you need in order to get to the next moment. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily look like a superpower.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for being so real, because I get so frustrated. I get frustrated as fuck, for better use of a word, when people pedestal themselves as these levitating perfect beings, when actually, showing up and purpose is messy and raw and full of chip crumbs and whines. Like, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, getting that kitten was an inspirational, impulsive moment that my daughter is like super excited. But then, she went to the bathroom all over my new white couch. So, sometimes being on purpose is a little messy. And my next book is actually all about that. And yours is too. You're talking about, being goddesses, but being a goddess is actually more practical than not claiming your goddesshood, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's like being a goddess, sometimes you're in fury. Being a goddess, sometimes you're in, fear or wonder or awe or in all your power. And it's being really present and embodying all of it, no matter how messy or imperfect it might feel or seem. It's been really liberating for me. And I'm older. I'm older than probably all of you guys. I'm 42 now. And I'll tell you, there's one thing that comes with age that I want to infuse into all of you guys. And that's actually not giving a fuck. And really so liberating. I mean, my agent went out with my book proposal this morning. It took a couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks late, which was great because it's the new moon. Whatever you plant on the new moon grows. So going out with my book proposal on the new moon, oddly, I can't publish my own books. It's a conflict of interest. Isn't that weird?
Okay.
So anyway. So we went out with it today, and I had my first call with somebody who was interested in the book, and they go, well, what category would you say this book is? And I said, boogers and spirituality.
What did she say?
Awesome. We all need it, because it's like, Emma, come on, you're the spiritual personal assistant. That being perfect all the time is not necessarily the embodiment of spirituality. Spirituality is messy. You get your hands wet, you get your feet dirty, you get the wrong idea sometimes, and you follow a whole path. Sometimes it can take a year or two before you realize it's the wrong one. So I think being a goddess means that you're willing to explore the potential failures and mistakes, and you are also going to fully embrace when you do hit one out of the park, but it's not really going to be, I tried to do crow pose on Friday with my yoga teacher.
Oh,
I fell over.
Right.
I say to Andrea, I go, Andrea Brooks, my yoga teacher, she's incredible, you guys. She's the sonic butterfly. She actually has 100-foot-long butterfly harp she travels all over the world with. And I was telling her, I was like, oh, I feel, I started my period. I feel so chubby. I'm like here on the mat. Thank God this is a private, because I think I stink. I mean, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, what are you talking about? I'm a fucking butterfly. And she was, and I have to travel around this 100-foot long harp. And sometimes it sucks. And sometimes I don't feel like being a butterfly. And so then she puts me right into crow pose. I fall over and I make a huge thud on the ground. And she goes, that was awesome that you even tried. She was like, I was like, okay, great. But you know, at the end of the session, I felt more like a goddess than ever in all my imperfections. So
that is the perfect metaphor for showing up. You know, yes. The period bloated, grumpy, I'm going to go do crow pose fucking anyway.
Oh yeah. And so she does this thing where, like, you know, happy baby pose. She has this totally sexist, I hope I don't offend anybody, this totally terrible thing. She's like super feminist, but she makes you like open your legs up all the way. So happy baby pose, you're like this. And then she makes your, and she goes, oh, it's happy girlfriend pose. And I was like, fuck you. I was like, I'm not doing that.
I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie.
It's super cute. No, I think it's great. Not when you're, you know, feeling the way I was feeling. But anyway. So yeah, so showing up, I have a chapter in my book, Life by the Cup, about showing up. And it was when I was starting my business. Thank you, Levy. It was when I was starting my business and I had $6 to my name. My son was having his health issues and I was fighting to get him in, I didn't have insurance. I was fighting to get him his operations on a state program. And I had this inspiration. There was this bookstore that came up for sale called Local Hero. And I had this inspiration to buy it, but I only had $6. And so what I did was I had this idea, if I wrote a business plan that showed him what I was going to do with it, maybe I could get him to finance the bookstore for me. And it had this gorgeous cafe in it. And so I got down there in my thrift store suit. I showed up. He laughed at me, which was great. But he looked at my business plan and was like, wow, this is actually incredible. Like, why would I finance something that you're going to make it great? Then I won't own it. And I paid for you to make it great. Like, why don't I just hire you to do all of this for me? And I said, well, there's one issue. I have to have my son with me at work. That's why I can't get a day job. He's got special needs. And he said, bring him to work. It's fine. I don't even care. So I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, but I got a job where I could have my kid with me. And so that's one of the things about showing up is that as long as you do it and you do it with courage and you do it with some humility and you don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes it ends up being something you weren't expecting, but it's just as good, if not better.
Yes, 100%. I feel like a lot of women that I know have been popping in and out of this call are people that I know kind of know their purpose, but they're dancing around it. It's almost like it's the flame that they're scared to touch. It's, you know, and so the beauty that comes with having the guts, you know, the feminine balls to go there anyway, I think that's where so many people get stuck.
Well, here's the deal. We have a purpose that we think we have, right? The one that, you know, go to college, get a good job, get married, have your kids, if whatever that purpose was that your parents threw on you or that you thought was your job. And then you have your soul's purpose. And your soul's purpose is usually completely different than the purpose that came extrinsically, right? So intrinsically, your soul is having a conversation with your personality and it's trying to break through and say, listen, kiddo, you've got a special job here on earth and it's not the one you thought. And you are extrinsically, you have all of these things that have told you, okay, I need to start a business and be a multimillionaire because that's what I value, or I need to get to a good college so that I can get a degree and get a great job at a Fortune 50, which is what my parents value or what I think I value. Like, whatever it is, you have extrinsic purpose that is brought onto you by outside influences. Then you have an intrinsic soul purpose, which is actually probably not what people want to see or hear come out of you. So unfortunately, oftentimes you tamp that one down with the extrinsic one, thinking you're doing a good job because you're doing what you should do, not necessarily what your soul is asking you to do. And I just had this happen in the last couple weeks. So I'm a publisher. sure, and I'm a consultant, and I consult with very high powered, businesses and women leaders. And there was one client who I love. I love her. I would move in with her. She's part of the family now. Like, I never want to leave her. I never want her to leave me. Like, we became such close friends, but it was time for the contract to end. And it was interesting because we both kept trying to prolong it, because we were like, but I love you, but I love you, but I love you, but I love you, but I love you. And it was like, no, but I needed to move forward in my soul's purpose versus the extrinsic purpose of I love you, and I don't want this contract to end. And so what happened was we had a blowout. That's what happens when two people are, and it was a loving, it's fine now, but it was like, I felt like there was nothing that could happen that would help us end the contract as it was. And it was also very lucrative, and it was very fun, and it was very seductive, and it was super awesome. And I got all this, freedom. And what ended up happening with that contract is the minute I ended it, I realized it was an extrinsic purpose contract, right? Because on the outside, I thought I would lose her if I closed down the contract. But on the inside, I knew that I had to focus on me. And so the more you learn how to listen to the voice of your soul, the more you do things that don't necessarily make sense to the outside world, the more you are on purpose. And it doesn't, as long as you're graceful and as long as you're polite and kind and you don't hurt people intentionally, whatever you do to get closer to your purpose, sometimes you're going to disappoint other people. And I'll tell you, my next book is about how we are divine beings in absolute, utter, sophisticated denial. and there's proof all around us that we're not divine. There's proof all around us. I mean, shit, some of us are completely vain jerks. Some of us are completely disorganized. Some of us are all these things. But at the same time, we're all these incredible, energized pieces of cosmos that have come through into flesh and bone, because we've agreed this is flesh and bone. And all of a sudden we're here going, okay, so I'm a divine being. Now what the fuck? Like, now what do I do with that? Like, oh my God, like, can I still show up to my day job now that I know I'm a divine being? Like, and yes, and divinity, I believe, because we are all divinity, and Worth could actually talk about this even more, but what I believe it is that happens when we realize we are divinity is that we no longer feign ignorance on our purpose. We no longer pretend we don't know, because there are no excuses. And I believe ultimately what every single one of our purposes is to love and be loved. That's it. There's nothing beyond that I've ever seen or heard or examined. And I've left my body a few times, not, to the extent that Worth has, but I will tell you, the only thing I know is that, when I had a near-death experience in Peru, the only voice I heard was, have you loved? Have you loved? And that was the fact that I could answer yes, even though it was in a faceplant, sort of messy, dipshit sort of way. I had loved. And that was it. Even though I married this duck pond of a man and I tried to make him love me back, not all was lost, because I had loved. And then I realized that I was safe to die, although I didn't want to, because that was the case. So I think our ultimate purpose is to realize our divinity and then no longer skirt around the fact that knowing that is messy and really demands that you love all the time. And that's pretty much it. It's ambitious, but not so much.
Crack the code. You crack the code. I have to read you some of these comments. People are saying, I love that, loving this conversation so much. I couldn't agree more, like laugh out loud, like a what the fuck face. Worth doing lots of hugs and hearts and stars. Yeah. I just think it's refreshing to be able to have these conversations with particularly women like you, Zhena, who are so well achieved and awakened and, like you say, mastered the art of not giving a shit. It is inspiring, and you give a shit in all the right places. Like, I feel like we need to define that.
When it comes to growing people, I give a million shits. When it comes to my kids being realized on the planet, it really matters. Obviously, that's everything. When it comes to whether or not I'm wearing the right thing to the meeting, those kinds of things I still kind of have a thing about, but I show up anyway, right? And I think if all of us were to kind of really home in on the fact that we are here to actually support one another, then we'll realize we can't fail. So one of the themes of my book is, the theme of the book is, with a mission to serve, you can't fail. I mean, I was able to build a multi-million-dollar company with no money, with a baby who needed a lot of special care, I was single mom, with no college degree. I had dropped out. So any of you who have a college degree, you're 10 million steps ahead of me. And then when I left that company and became a publisher at Enliven, or I created Enliven Books with Atria, Simon and Schuster, it was because I had failed. I had failed so badly. I thought at the tea company, I got in a fight with the chairman because I didn't want to do diet teas because I thought it was so horrible. I was like, these aren't going to help anybody. These are not real. Like, these aren't really diet enough. Like, I don't want to do diet teas. I want to do fair trade. That's all I care about. He got super angry and was like, fine, then you're out. And then I was like, fine, I'm out. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, dang, who am I? And then I was like, after 13 years of building Zhena's Gypsy Tea, what is Zhena's Gypsy Tea without Zhena? And I thought, well, they'll come back. Of course, they can't do it without me. And then they were like, oh, no, you're a pain in the butt. It's fine. We're going to just do our own thing. I was like, okay, great. So I go to Atria, my publisher at the time, and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, I left the tea company, so I'll have more time to promote my book. And she said, oh, this is fabulous news. I've been trying to figure out how to get you to come on board. So even when you feel like, so she gave me my own imprint, and people say, like, how'd you get your own imprint? That's impossible. People 30 years into the industry don't get their own imprint. And I'm like, I'm just absolutely myself. Like, I'm honest everywhere I go. It might be messy, but I'm honest. I focus on giving. I focus on telling the truth. And then I see what happens. And sometimes it's scary. I mean, for a long time after I left the tea company, I really didn't know my identity. I didn't know what my purpose was. And it wasn't until I, really started getting into writing my book that I realized my purpose is honestly to inspire other women to start and grow businesses that heal and change the world. That was really it. And I thought, if this book can help people start a business and grow it and through that heal and change the world, then I've fulfilled everything in me. And now I'm doing that with a publishing house and getting to support goddesses like you. And it was so funny today. I presented your book to the sales team for feedback. Yeah, it's not quite the sales conference yet. It was launch. It's before the sales conference. And what ended up happening is they were like, wow, all your books have a theme. And I was like, what? They're like, girl power. And I was like, yeah. I was like, because that's what we're here for, right? We're here to empower other women to have the strength to follow their dreams and know their purpose. So yes, my purpose is to have all of your viewers know that they have a purpose that no one else can fulfill but them. And it has everything to do with love and each other.
Yeah. And you know what? On behalf of everyone who will ever read a book, that you have weaved in the background, like, thank you. So ladies, you must know that, like, Enliven Books is definitely the only publishing subhouse that does spiritual activism. Books that aren't just about fluff and chakras and crystals. This is actually about stuff to help you change the world. This is the next step. And this is why, like, connecting with Zhena, she looked me down my third eye, down the barrel of it. She was right in my face, and she just said, "No, honey, no. You don't have to be the pinup girl for crystals. You know, it changed my life. No, honey, no." Like, it was, whoa, you changed my life. You know, and I guarantee you, if you read any of the books, you know, Yogiko for Sacred Gifts.
Sacred Gifts, yeah.
Yeah, they're divine books. And I know Kiss the Ground is coming out later this year. There's amazing.
It's literally how to reverse climate change with the food you eat. And I couldn't think of anything more spiritual than that. And well, and what I love about your, Emma, if I can just have a little love fest here about you as my beloved author and adopted goddess daughter, I looked at you and I was like, okay, this is super cute. And I have a feeling there's a lot underneath what you're writing. And, you know, you burst open. And don't you find that most of us just need to be seen?
Yeah.
And to be seen in our depth, to be seen for more than what we are on the extrinsic, on the surface. Once somebody sees that in you, there's no turning back. Because all of a sudden, what we were talking about earlier is having your soul's purpose is very distinct usually from your extrinsic purpose. So how do you match those two together? And number one is having a community of people who see you, really see you, and those who aren't afraid to validate the deepest parts of you. And sometimes the messiest. I'll tell you, when I left the tea company, my New Moon Mastermind, I'd started this group in my yurt on my property, which I'll take you guys on a tour. And I had my women's circle come, and we did a Ganesha ritual to remove obstacles to our destiny. The next day I got fired from the tea company on my company. So I did it. I had cast this massive spell. We had like these 20 women all chanting for Ganesha to remove obstacles to our destiny. We wrote our destiny down. We burned them. We took the ashes to a river. As long as it was going away from us, everything was fine. So the next day, the chairman calls and he's like, "Oh, you don't want to do diet teas? All right, you're fired." And I'm like, "Oh no." So part of me was like laughing and like going, "Oh my God, these spells work," which always shocks me. Every time I cast a spell that works, I'm always like, "Oh my God, that worked." And then the other part of me was like, "Oh crap, now I have to really follow my real destiny." Because it wasn't dealing with grocery stores fighting like Unilever and Lipton for shelf space. I can tell you that wasn't my ultimate destiny. So when you find your purpose, it's scary. But when you're with a community of women who love you, those women got me through it. And that makes it a little less scary. So the sisterhood, I think, is everything in this.
I agree. And finding those women where there's almost like a sacred soul contract, where you feel like they've got your back no matter what. And it's not something that's ever said, you just know. Like, those are your confidence.
I thought of a really good exercise to give your friends. So there's this one exercise, I think I've adapted, but it might be the same, I'm not sure. But Jack Canfield did this in one of my first meetings. I'm part of a transformational leadership group. And he said, what I really want you to know about me is, what I really want you to know about me is, and then you repeat that for like literally like 2 straight minutes. So you have to come up with stuff for 2 minutes. So at first it's like, what I really want you to know about me is I just finished my next book. What I really want you to know about me is I live in Ojai and I love it. What I really want you to know about me is, then after like fatigue starts to set in, you go, what I really want you to know about me is I'm really sensitive to sound. And sometimes when my husband snores, I want to like run away to a nunnery in the Himalayas. What I really want you to know about me is, so what happens when you start to actually unveil the aspects of you without the ego to your women's circle or to the people around you, and this is a great exercise to do it, then you allow yourself to really be seen. you actually can be seen in all of your depths. So it's a really good thing. And I've flipped it. I've actually adapted his exercise to be what I really don't want you to know about me is.
Oh.
And so that automatically frames all the things my ego is trying to keep separate and secret so that I can stay cool. You know? So what I really don't want you to know about me is, you know, sometimes I'm really scared. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. And so when you have a women's circle that you can really share those things with, then the safety starts to reverberate throughout the universe. Yeah. For sure.
Totally. And I for one, like, I think always often start conversations with the people that you know you instantly have that imprint with the stuff that I would never really want anyone to know. You know, that, hey, I got rejected 300 times before my book got picked up. Hey, I used to work at Penguin and Publishing and market their books, but I was treated like an idiot. And they would rewrite my out-of-office replies. Apparently, I couldn't even write an out-of-office reply. You know,
honey, you know how many editors I had on my book proposal? No, it just went out today. Do you know how many times it got edited? It was supposed to go out like 3 months ago when we were in Bali, but it was getting edited. And I tell everyone in my classes, I'm like, listen, you guys, stories are hard to come by. Editing is cheap and easy. Well, it's not easy. It's not cheap, but it's like, there are a lot of editors who want to edit a quality story, but to be honest and tell your story as messy as it is, it doesn't matter about your sentence structure. Like, just tell it, and it's okay. There's copy editors who live to edit your stories. And honestly, the stories are way more fun to invent and create and live through than the editing will be. So so you had that experience, and me too. You know, I'm a publisher who, my poor assistant, Haley, she edits everything I do.
Does she?
I consider myself, I mean, she doesn't edit my writing. She edits my book descriptions and things like that. Not too much, but you know, don't worry about your fallibility. It really doesn't have anything to do with your purpose. Your purpose is to basically supplant that and to get past it every day with a level of courage. And really everything else is just details, right? But the thing that matters most is that you are loving people and allowing yourself to be loved by others. Yeah. Everything else is pretty much just semantics.
Oh,
I forgot I have the
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. She agrees. I am. Oh, hi, Spike. You're so weird and wonderful. I love it.
This is being a mom, you guys, to a little mini goddess, my 7-year-old. And if Spike gets lost, I'm sure the new kitten will find it.
You touched on something before about being loved, or loving and being loved. I feel like a lot of women that are starting out in their purpose or their passion projects struggle with the help, struggle to receive and to really digest the support that's around them. Yeah. Like, what are some insights?
Is it okay if I talk about my book for a second?
Yes, please. I feel like it's a beautiful...
By the way, I'm in my yard. And this is my house right here. This is my patio where I write right now. This is my altar with Lakshmi, my outdoor altar. And down there is my horse corral where the yurt used to be. And I'm building a writing shed down there now. And that's national forest land all around me. So my dream, so being in your purpose means you also have to give yourself what you need. And giving myself what I need is a lot of greenery, a lot of trees. That's required. All right, so I'm going to pitch my book now on the asking for help. So one of the things that I didn't know how to do was ask for help. It's still something I have to practice at. But this chapter is on page 17. It's called Pride Cannot Feed a Baby. And it was when I literally was starving and I was breastfeeding my son. So I really needed to eat because he needed me, and we had just gotten back from the hospital. And this was how I actually got over my fear of asking for help. And I'm not going to give away what it does, but I basically asked my neighbor to feed me, which was highly humiliating at the time because I am an immigrant. I come from a very strong immigrant family where we don't ask for anything because we feel like we're borrowing space from other people. And now that the Trump administration is in, it's almost even worse. But one of the things that I teach in this chapter at the end is making a specific request. And this is something that's so important that so few people know how to do, but it's like a muscle, like anything else. If you're going to learn how to do crow pose, like I'm not, actually I will, but if you're going to learn how to do crow pose, you have to have certain muscles that are strong enough for you to do it. If you're going to learn to ask for help, you have to do the same. So these are my 4 steps to asking for help successfully. Number 1, identify something specific that you really want and need. So for instance, if you're asking for a mentor or for help or anything like that, you can get really clear on saying, okay, I need help with my current situation. Okay. Identify whom you need it from. That's the next step. Super easy, right? I need help from, that's actually something that a lot of people, they just reach out to anybody they admire, but who might not actually be able to help them. So really identify who can help you. So for me, when I was building the tea company, I didn't have any experience in consumer packaged goods, multi-million-dollar businesses. And so I found a guy who had been the CEO of the Balance Bar company. He created Balance Bar. Actually, oddly, Peggy Lamb, who was in Bali, was the founder who had hired him. And he became my mentor. I didn't know that till we were in Bali. She created Balance Bar.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So, so what ended up happening, but I found this guy who was really good at running consumer packaged goods company. And I asked him for help. Set a time with the person to call or meet, give yourself a deadline. So that was the thing. I asked him, I said, I'm so-and-so. I've heard great things about you. I've heard you have the skills that I could use. Would it be possible to buy you lunch and to show you my business model and see if there's anything I'm missing? I promise I won't bug you before or after, but I will absolutely buy you lunch at a place of your choice. It'll take less than an hour and you'll be fed. And he wrote back, absolutely. And it was great because it was specific. Now that is the key to asking for help. You have to be specific. If you just say to somebody, oh, I really need help, I don't really know what I'm doing, then they're going to be overwhelmed because they're like, I can't help you if you don't know what it is you need help with. Be as specific as possible. And my favorite quote from Zig Ziglar is, are you a wandering generality or a sparkling specific? Great one, right? So write out a specific, set a time to with the person to call or meet, give yourself a deadline, right? I said that. And then 4, write out a specific request as rehearsal for your talk or meeting. A lot of people get in front of a mentor or somebody they admire and they just go, I, right? So you want to have this practice, okay? So, so always start with gratitude. So I write, dear so-and-so, I'm grateful, thankful to have you in my life, right? And so you can say, I'm grateful for the example you've given me, although we don't know each other yet. Number 2, I have a request for you. Pretty hard to say, but I have a request. I appreciate your willingness to help me. Please let me know if you can help by. Thank you. So I have a request for you. You then write what your request is. I appreciate your willingness to help me. Please let me know if I can help, if you can help by the certain date. Thank you. So those are the 4 steps. One of the things you can add is bribery, which always works, which is basically when I needed feedback on this book before I published it. I basically said, I will walk your dog. I will massage your feet. I will buy you lunch. All the people I knew who were successfully published or best-selling authors. Oh, okay. Spike's on the pillow. There he is. So anybody who I basically just asked the request of, and I offered support in that way. So if you get really good at that, it's very matter of fact, and you don't actually have to take it personally if they say no, because it's a numbers game. People are busy. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. You're
So
right. And I think the people that are brave enough to ask always are surprised when they get a yes.
totally.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of like Tracy, who's got a book in her that's looking around, and I was like, I'll give you my book proposal. You know, use that to build it out. And Worth, who was like, hey, can we collab? Can we do something? I was like, yes, you're an amazing girl. I'd be an idiot not to say yes to you. Like all these women here ask.
So when she wins, you win, right?
Certainly, yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. I definitely, going to the all women's college where it was like there were no guys, there was no like biological imperative, there was no like fear of missing out, because everybody was really focused on just doing their best. It was so refreshing. And if we can create that sort of a sisterhood, you know, which you're doing, and I think so many need to be focused on doing, what it does is it creates a safe place for all of us to succeed, and for all of us to live in our full purpose unapologetically in each moment of any given day. And when we're living in our purpose, we are a lot less scared of somebody else getting our resources. We're a lot less scared of anyone else stepping on our toes or taking the steam out or the wind out of our sails, because we are on purpose. Nothing can stop you when you're in your soul's purpose. So I think that's another argument for getting on your purpose like ASAP, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Oh my gosh, you've been amazing. I'm conscious that it is a very busy time to be a publisher. So we're
it's dinner time here in California. I got to feed my munchkins and get Spike back in his safe cage because he's climbing all over.
But we are so grateful for your insights. And for anyone wondering, this is Life by the Cut. This is Zhena's book. You're going to get a follow-up email. I know that.
Yeah. Oh, and Zhena.tv. Yeah, I have blogs on there about a lot of stuff. Today was, am I worth a room of my own?
Oh.
Are you worth a room of your own? Because I'm building, yeah. So I talk about worth. Thank you, Worthy. But, you know, it's self-worth for a woman is a big deal. I talk about having spaciousness, and I talk about the mind, body, spirit of success. So if people are interested, they can read stuff there. And but I think that your upcoming book is going to answer everyone's questions. It's just going to take just a few minutes to get out.
So Zena's currently editing, giving me some editorial.
Oh my God. I love how nervous you are, because there's nothing to be nervous about. It's so great. And your latest draft was spectacular. You are fabulous. I mean, most of the edits, just in full transparency in front of your audience, is that I just was asking for more and more and more. So you'll get that letter. Don't worry. I was saying, more. I want more. Give me more here. Give me more there. And next week, I'm going back to study under Dr. Estes, the woman who wrote Women Who Rode the Wolves. And, you know, I'm looking forward to next year handing her a copy of your book and saying, here's one of your baby goddesses that you helped bring to life.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, yeah, and I have to say, because Zhena asked for more and more of me, I pretty much deleted the first copy of my book and graduated from spiritual crystal training bras into a woman. So thank fucking God, because yeah, so this book's going to be a goodie. And
did you just say crystal spiritual training bras?
Yeah.
God, you're so good. Yeah. I mean, you're such a wordsmith. I love it. All right. I love you, and I love your audience, and you guys just keep empowering one another. And thank you for doing this, Emma.
Thank you so much, Zhena.
Okay.